Hey Chris, can we start with Coleman? Tell us a little bit about your history with him, how far back it goes. It sounds like he's been in contact with you for quite a while, according to him.
Yeah, no, we've been following Coleman probably since his sophomore year. Our area scout Clint Harrison, down there in the deep south, has been following that program, Coleman specifically, probably since sophomore year. And he's always been a big time competitor, performer. We love the way he competes.
Can you tell us about what you guys saw in the World Cup in September? His presence and what he showed you that day.
Yeah, just the compete level is extremely high, ton of strikes, 4 or 5 pitches, and he loves to get after it.
How about you, AJ? What have you seen from him?
Yeah, I mean, I think just hearing from our group and our staff, he's been a guy that's been high on our list now for a few years. And I think, you go on Team USA and, you pitch the championship game against Team Japan. That obviously kind of stamps you as one of the top guys in the country. And I had an opportunity to see him this spring. And, it's a very unique player. I mean, he's a guy he's, you don't see somebody that big that controls his body that well, can also play in the field as a shortstop, and honestly, probably could get drafted or go play college baseball as a two-way player. And just a very, very competitive person. And, I think all of our scouts, everybody that's been around him, talks about that competitive nature, along with having a high skill level. And obviously that's why we're excited to make more pick.
And you guys have ruled out the two-way stuff.
He'll be focused on pitching.
All right, and Chris, how can you kind of just an overview of the rest of the first day?
Yeah, Elliot LaSalle's, one of the best high school hitters in the country. We love the brain, we love the mind, the family, and just a really special person. Next after that, Ryan Lynch, at UNC, he's a bulldog. He's 96, 98. He's got big life, and we love his compete factor. Roll it down, Robbie Levy, left-handed hitting catcher. Think it's a big league bat. Love the makeup. And then Alex Conover, once again, love the left-handed power of the athlete and a family background.
Thanks, guys.
We'll go to AJ Cassava.
Jeff basically took my line of questioning, but I could follow up on a couple of those guys. Lynch do you view him as a starter? I know he's pitched starting and relief. Like what's his path? And I guess the command upticked a little bit this season. What do you see for him and his development?
Yeah, I think he can go either way. I think he's a power starter, but he's got versatility to do whatever he needs.
And then I think there was maybe some talk of your 4C pick. What was his, Conover at catcher as a catching option? Is that an option for you guys, or are you focused on like corner outfield wherever?
Hey, another versatile player. Runs a 6'6", 60. He's got plus raw power. He has the ability to catch, has the ability to play first base, center field. So, we'll look at the versatility as a plus.
You've obviously taken like the profile of first round high school guys that you take. They just dominate pretty much all these guys that you've taken in the last few years. Like, what do you see when you're taking a guy like Coleman in terms of how he competes and what he does to competition that's probably inferior to him given who he is and his status? But what do you make of like his performance in high school this season?
Well, I think with Coleman, it's just a track record of domination, right? And just the compete level is so high, which raised our conviction level. And there's just no let up in the kid. And when you're that dominant and that consistent for as long as he has been, it really stands out.
I think too, AJ. I think when you have somebody that comes from a really good high school program. So obviously high school baseball, most of the high school players do very well. That's why they're in a position to get drafted by major league teams. But he's been in a program that wins state championships, has pro guys come out of there, has a big track record. And then also we follow a ton of the summertime stuff. So I think that's where when you see the Team USA performance, you see his performance at PG events and PG national. I mean, those things those things when you're not just doing it in your hometown against the best competition there, but you're doing it against the best of the best in the country, and then an international competition that made us very comfortable making him our pick.
We'll go to Derek Togerson, NBC7.
Hey guys, AJ actually kind of took me into what I wanted to ask you about the level of competition. Gatorade Player of the Year with Borthwick in Florida. That's a pretty good baseball state. When you look at again level of competition and you see somebody who is honored like that, given all the competition he has, how much does that kind of lead you into taking somebody like that?
Yeah, I think that's all part of it. I mean, obviously our group does a ton of homework. I think it's you're constantly digging and trying to evaluate how guys are going to do against better competition. But when you see them against better competition, state tournaments, state championship games, perfect game tournaments across the country, international competition, it gives you that a little bit more comfort level in making those picks. And you look at the track record for us, we've taken some guys, whether it be Ryan Weathers, Mackenzie Gore, that have gone out there, Cash Mayfield, Cruz Schoolcraft. They've all been, kind of on that Gatorade State Player of the Year, National Player of the Year line, Sports Illustrated, High School Athlete of the Year. And, I think some of the attributes we look for, they've translated so far. Those guys are in the big leagues or in a couple like Cash's, standpoint, moving through the minor leagues on his way to the big leagues. So our group is good at identifying, those factors. And, I think in Coleman, he's another guy that checked a lot of boxes for us on that competitive scale against the competition he's faced.
And Chris, you told us yesterday one of the things you like the most is makeup. Just kind of doing a cursory read through on all the guys took on day one. It seems like that is something that is brought up with every single one of them. Is that something that you can look at these guys and say, I like the kind of players and the kind of people we're bringing into the program here?
No doubt. And you look at our player development, and the way we're wired, the way we work, it takes a certain type of player and mindset to really succeed. And, we're looking for those separators from the makeup checkpoint. I feel like so far this class fits the bill.
How long does it take you to really glean that with a guy when you're talking to him?
Excuse me?
How long does it take you to have many conversations with a guy until you realize, like, I like the cut of his jib. I like how this guy's wired.
Yeah, no, I think it starts on the ground with our area scouts, right? We're always talking about getting your underclass reports in and building relationships and, knowing where the best guys are at in your area and doing the homework. And that usually shines through in our meetings with area scouts and hearing their conviction level. And then once we see separators, we turn it up a notch.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you tomorrow.
Sure.
Go to David J. Mad Friars.
Chris, you're talking about the athleticism for a guy as big as Borthwick is. Can you just give a little bit of a comparison to Boston Bateman and in terms of the athleticism and movement?
Yeah, no, a different level of athlete than that. I think more maybe an Austin Riley type of thing, where Austin played infield and similar physical frame, and to see Coleman play shortstop at a real clip, and know if he was going to the SEC, he could play on the dirt at that size, and he'd make some outlier plays on the mound that you've really never seen before from someone of that stature.
Okay, thanks. With LaSalle, how much time did you spend with him, around him, when the Canadian group was down in Arizona this spring?
We had scouts at every game.
And was that a differentiator for you, seeing him against professional level competition?
No question. I think Team Canada does a great job of playing pro teams in Arizona. They do go down to Florida and they'll play teams in rookie ball, and it gives you an accurate representation of who's a real bat and who's not. Facing pro level pitching at 17 years old.
And what were your takeaways from his performance down there?
Polished, sees the ball early, line to line drives all over the field, very calm, even demeanor. Felt like a plus bat for our group.
And then just one more for now. And with Lynch, as you guys have figured out where your player development group works best with profiles, does it shape the way you approach a guy like Lynch, who sort of at times flashes plus and at other times is a long way from that? Is that a profile that you're looking for in particular?
Well, I think once again it starts on the ground. Our area scout Tyler Littlefield, Jake Cannon, cross-checker in the Carolinas, like those guys are ringing the bell early and all year. And then we start getting in touch with James Keller and Rod, our pitching group, and having them get under the hood, look at video. And, the more we got into it, we think there's a ton of upside with Lynch, and definitely a good fit with our group.
We'll go to Tom Krasovic.
Hey, guys, can you give us a sense with new ownership? I know they haven't been announced formally, but there was an announcement about an agreement. Any communication, indirect or direct, between you and them, just giving them a feel? I would think they'd have some interest in how you guys go about a draft, but anything there where you guys are able to communicate?
Yeah, I think it's again, like until the transition and the sale is finalized and closed, it's business as usual here. It's the same kind of report structure we've had. So, our conversations going into the draft were, with John Seidler and, in terms of John communicating with the new ownership group. I think again, I think part of their interest in this organization, this team, is because of the work that Chris and the amateur group has done over the years, and our ability to find and develop young talent. So the current group and the new ownership group. I know they're very aware and interested in the draft. I know they were very supportive, and I think they were excited to see the process and the work in terms of what ended up happening with our selections. But as far as how it all shapes out, we're just we're focused on the draft and our players, and when the time comes and there's the official transition, we'll be ready to have those conversations.
Thank you. And then on the topic of going with prep players, as you guys tend to do in the first round, maybe even the second too, a lot of angles to that. I'm sure you've weighed them all out. I remember Logan White said a long time ago that the Moneyball era afforded him more opportunities for high school players. Clayton Kershaw was one of them, Matt Kemp, Billingsley, saying that they were comfortable going high with high school guys, and the college guys were more popular with the industry. Can you talk about what the niche is like now? Is it still an advantage? You're very comfortable, even though you have perhaps less data to go on with a high school guy than a college guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think both the college and the high school ranks, there's a ton of information that's out there. Obviously performance data, analytic information, sports science data. Every team now is super dialed in, and we take a lot of pride in having a ton of information on those players. I think we're just again like we've seen the best players come from everywhere. And whether it's international, high school, college. We don't want to limit ourselves. And I think a little bit, like you mentioned, Tom, the last few years, probably in the industry, there's always different shifts. And I think you just try to find the value. So if the entire industry is going towards, or a lot of the industry is going towards, one class of player, that usually leads some other players that are open for us. And, we do our homework. We take a lot of pride as a group. And we've had a lot of success, finding players both in high school and college, and not just here in the last few years, but some scouts are in that room that have seen 15, 20, 25, 30 years, and some analysts and front office staff that have been through a lot of drafts that are good at it. So you don't want to limit yourself. It's a little bit of like the industry trend going one way, and usually that means some values the other way. And I think from some of our past experiences, you look up and the James Wood, the CJ Abrams, the Jackson Merrills, the Mackenzie Gores, Ryan Weathers, X Edwards, Campus on. I mean, these guys are good big league players, and they came from the high school ranks. So we've got confidence to fish in those waters, and hopefully we've found some more good ones here with the first two picks.
And real fast, Coleman was really proud of the high school throwing program that they developed there. Did you guys get your hands wrapped around that? And did Brad Penny tell you anything about him? Very gutty, gritty pitcher himself, World Series ring.
Yeah, no, we've met with Coleman and his dad at length, talking about their high school program, the throwing program, the ins and outs of pitching. Coleman's got a beautiful mind when it comes to talking pitching, and how he's setting up hitters and what he's looking for on the attack. And just growing up in that program just gave us a lot of confidence moving forward once they started breaking down what they're about.
Thank you.
Go back to Jeff Sanders.
Hey AJ, the calendar is going to flip pretty quickly toward the trade deadline after tomorrow. How would you assess what your team has done so far?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've got one more day of the draft, and it's an important day for us tomorrow. So that's where the focus is for not just us in the end, and also I think for most of the industry. And then it turns to the deadline. So, it's been I think we're getting to the deadline right about 500, and it feels like it's been that type of half. Where there's been some good, there's been some things that we've got to improve on. We're in position where we could potentially get to October, but we're gonna have to get better, and we're gonna have to improve. And I think a lot of conversations over the last few days and weeks with our group and our staff and our players are the first ones to talk about that we've got to adjust some things. We've got to play better here in the second half. And we've been in this spot a couple of times here in the last few years, and then we've been able to play really well in August and September. And I think from our side, each year is different. So I think it's kind of like we get through tomorrow. The folks will be on the draft through tomorrow, and then all the attention turns to our big league team, and more so the trade deadline. And we'll be evaluating every day with a group that we hope and we think should play well here in the second half.
How much does that first road trip kind of influence where you might, go with the trade deadline, or are you already leaning one way or another? I mean, you have a large sample already.
No, I mean, I think every game's important, obviously. I think that, like obviously you get more information and you've got to look at what's out there in the market. You've got to be realistic with, things that you can do as a group and a team. And you also got to have a feel for where your team is at. And I think so that's every day you kind of see that. And that first road trip we'll go out and obviously Kansas City and then I believe Atlanta and Miami. So we'll see a couple of teams that are in the playoff chase with us and in front of us. And, I think we'll take it all in. And, you don't want to overreact from game to game, but it's obviously, you get more information over those 10 days. And that'll all be part of our process in making our decisions here as we get to the deadline.
Last one for me. How do you wrap your mind around the underperforming hitters? Manny's turned it on lately, but Tatis's season, Merrill's season, Bogart's season, like how does that impact what you can do? Because you can't really upgrade those spots. You kind of need more from them.
Yeah, I think in the glass half full kind of perspective, yeah, we're sitting at about 500 and we haven't gotten the best performances from our top players. So that's I think there's a part of the group that we look at that and go, okay, these are good players. They have physical ability and a want to go out and perform. And, but we've got to, we've got to get to that spot where those guys are performing at the level there that we're accustomed to seeing from those guys. And those guys care a ton. There's been a lot of conversation over the last week about, okay, how can we, some adjustments we can make? How can we do things a little differently? What are some things we want to stick with? Because as you mentioned, you see guys like Manny and Toddy, they're starting to swing it better here over the last month. But the biggest thing is everybody's like honest and realistic. Like if we're going to get where we need to get to, it's, we're going to see that group, do what we're accustomed to seeing here in the second half of the season. And, I think we're anxious to get it started here next week.
Thank you.
Back to David J.
Chris, just a couple process questions. Have you noticed a difference? What difference did you notice with the quiet period being implemented last fall in terms of your ability to get information?
I don't know. I think we doubled down on getting guys that were multi-sport guys, in-home visits, doing more homework, doing the best we could within those rules, and opened us up a little bit more of international looks with the dead period on the amateur side.
Okay. And then with the change in the way the draft's being run and compressed into 2 days and all the rest, how does the break where it fell tee you up for what you're looking to do tomorrow, and how much financial flexibility do you see having going into tomorrow?
No, it's kind of the same. We'll all get prepared tonight, get ready the best we can tomorrow for rounds 5 through 20, and attack it like a normal day.
You feel like you're going in with a decent amount of flexibility right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. A lot of good players on the board, and we'll kind of re-rack it tonight and see where we're at.
Do a few more. We'll go to Marty Caswell.
Oops. Sorry, guys. Hi, AJ. Hi, Chris. How much, I know David asked you about financial flexibility, but with the current and the new ownership group, how much flexibility do you have to add should the team turn this thing around?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think those will be conversations over the course of the next few weeks. And I think you also have to see how the team plays, how we come out of the break, and also what's out there. From deals that make sense. So we're going to go into the process open-minded to see what's there and see what can help our club. We're going to go in open-minded about whether it's acquiring players or kind of looking at if we have to go another direction. So I think all those things are on the table. I think there'll be conversation in the next few weeks with the ownership group about appetite to add to this group. And again, I think we're going to be in a position to know a lot more here in a couple of weeks. I've seen some different things about the trade market. It really is like almost every team is like pretty much locked in until the draft is over. I think part of that's like there's a heavy focus on the draft. Part of it is just there's a lot of teams in contention, and I think you start to separate a little bit more at this time in the next 10 days, 2 weeks, and we'll get some more answers about what that means from a budget standpoint and go from there with it.
I think everyone on this call has learned that there's no untouchables when it comes to you at the trade deadline. But should you go that other direction, is Mason Miller someone that you are prepared to take calls on? Is he somebody that you would move?
Yeah, it's like for right now, Marty, it's like, let's get ready for day 2 of the draft tomorrow, and let's go win a couple more games and hopefully put our team in a better spot. Obviously, Mason's the best in the game, so you're always going to have people that are they're going to be interested in somebody that's the best at their craft and what they do. When we made the deal last year, he's performed as good as you can want somebody to perform, and we made the deal with the intention that Mason's going to be here for a long time, and he's done an unbelievable job. And our intent is still the same as when we made the deal last year.
And last question, I'm sorry. How would you evaluate the job that Craig Stammen and his coaching staff have done this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the group again, like it's I think overall for Craig, he's done a lot of really good things in terms of his process, the way he goes about things with the staff. He'll be the first to tell you that from a win-loss standpoint, he would, he'd love to do better. I'll be the first to tell you that it's not a perfect roster he has, that, ultimately, we've had a lot of injuries like a lot of teams do, but, if you look up and, no Pavetta, no Darvish, no Musgrove, some bullpen injuries, some position player injuries, no Laureano. And the biggest thing with Craig and why he's, good at what he does, why he was a good player, why he's continues to he's gonna continue to grow as a manager. He's open to learning and growing, and he'll talk and be like, yeah, there are some things that I can do better. And I think for us as a staff, we try to do that as an organization. He's doing that from his standpoint, and him and the group are working very hard, and they're looking to get this thing turned around. And I think he's the first that'll go into the second half saying, yeah, I'm going to make some adjustments here, some things I can work on that I can do better. And that's usually where this thing starts. So we hired him for a reason. We believe in what he brings to the table. He's been in this organization a long time. We're very familiar with him. And again, I'm expecting the team to play well in the second half with him leading the group.
Anybody else?
One quick one that I don't enjoy asking is the hitting coach. What do you see from him and correlated to what we've seen from the offense?
Yeah, I think with Steven Souza and with the offensive group, I mean, it's again, like there's been moments throughout the year. What we try not to do is like, hey, have that direct correlation to we go score 10 runs, man, that the hitting coach is doing a great job. We score 2 runs or 1 run or no runs. Hey, it's something on the coaching. I think what we've tried to do over the last few months, and definitely in the last few weeks, as we've gotten more, we've gotten just more information, more games, is it's kind of looking at our process and trying to look at, hey, is our review good? Is our pregame good? Is our prep good? Is it too much information? Is it enough information? And just listening to the staff and players so that we're in a better spot in the second half. And I think we tried not to overreact to the fact that we haven't swung the bats the way we want to and make any rash judgments on what that means, because we've all been there where, I think, we see teams that one year play in the World Series or in the playoffs and their offense is at the top of the scale, and the next year not so much, and the same coaching staff and, similar players. So, again, we like our group, we like our coaches, we think they do a very good job. I can tell you from talking to those guys and working with them, the care factor is huge, the knowledge and intent is big. And again, for myself, we've got to turn it up here in the second half. And I'm very honest with myself on the job that I've done, and ultimately we've got to come out of this break and play a little better here in the second half.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. AJ, Chris, thank you very much